answers. And we get a trip once a week, maybe. Can't pay your bills on a trip once a week. Can't put your kids through school, you can't buy groceries. If they pull out, we are totally messed up here.
A mess that, even with the well sealed, could take years to finally clean up. John Terrett, Al Jazeera.
Afghanistan's largest group of election observers is expressing serious concern about the legitimacy of Saturday's parliamentary vote. The Independent, Free and Fair Elections Foundation says it's received numerous complaints of fraud and follows President Karzai's comments declaring the vote a solid success. The final tally isn't expected before the end of October, and as Sue Turton reports, there are concerns that the count could be tampered with.
In northern Afghanistan, the human cost of election day was revealed. The bodies of 3 election workers who were kidnapped as the polls opened were dumped in Balkh province. And in neighbouring Kunduz, the governor said 6 children had been killed by a shell that had failed to explode on election day. With the votes counted, the results were posted locally, giving candidates and voters a chance to see who had swung the vote.
People are coming to check the results outside their polling stations to see who was won in their area. But these results, as well as the ballot boxes full of votes, are now being transferred centrally to Kabul, so the Independent Election Committee can double-check whether the lists and the votes in the ballot boxes reconcile.
But the election observers know this is a dangerous time. If the Taliban attack and destroy these sensitive materials as they're transported to Kabul, there'll be no way of checking if the results are honest and accurate. Reports of ballot rigging and fraud are mounting. When we interviewed Dr. Farouk Millaneh last week, a candidate standing in Jalalabad, he believed the level of fraud would stop these elections being fair and free.
This is not democracy. Where is the democracy?
Today he described to us how his observers had seen other candidates bribing voters and how some polling stations had run out of ballot papers. The election authorities had pledged to punish anyone found with fake cards and to disqualify any candidate involved in their distribution. But Dr. Millaneh said anyone found with fakes was arrested, but then later released without punishment. One of the election complaints commissioners said he had no proof yet that fake cards had been a factor in this poll.
Is it a case that they haven't been used, or is it a case that it's just impossible to tell whether some of the voting cards being used were fake or not?
Perhaps they were, perhaps they won't. We certainly have no basis in sound, testable allegation at this stage to give you any answer on that.
The election authorities have a tough job on their hands. Another election dismissed as fraudulent could embolden the Taliban and weigh heavy on the Obama administration. The US president badly needs a successful poll if he's to bolster flagging public support for American forces' continued presence in Afghanistan. Sue Turton, Al Jazeera, Kabul.
An American woman who was detained for more than a year in an Iranian prison is back in the US and describing what it was like. Addressing the media in New York, Sarah Shord said she felt only, quote, 1/3 free. She called upon Iran's government to release her fiancé and friend who remain in Iranian custody. All 3 were accused of spying.
Shane and Josh do not deserve to be in prison one day longer than I was. We committed no crime, and we are not spies. We in no way intended any harm to the Iranian government or its people, and believe a huge misunderstanding led to our detention and prolonged imprisonment.
Well, the Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's also in New York, where he'll be attending the UN General Assembly meetings this week. In a television interview, he called his government's release of Sarah Shord as a huge humanitarian gesture and